There's a moment that happens in conversations that most people never notice. Someone makes a joke, everyone laughs, and you don't. Not because you're offended, not because you didn't understand, you just stay quiet. And suddenly, the energy shifts. The room feels slightly tighter. Someone looks at you twice. Another person starts explaining themselves. You didn't say anything, but something changed. Silence does something to people, especially when it's calm. Most assume silence is emptiness, but psychologically, silence is space. And the human brain does not like empty space. When there's a gap in feedback, the mind rushes to fill it. In social psychology, we constantly scan for signals: approval, agreement, safety, micro-expressions, nods, tone shifts. These cues regulate our nervous system in real time. They tell us you're accepted or you're safe here. When you remove those signals, even unintentionally, the other person's brain has to guess. And the brain is not neutral when it guesses. It defaults to threat detection. When someone speaks and doesn't immediately receive affirmation, their amygdala activates subtly. Not panic, not fear, just uncertainty. And uncertainty to the nervous system feels close to rejection. So they start searching your face, your posture, your stillness. They try to decode what you're thinking. And when you remain composed, regulated, steady, unreadable, it can feel like standing in front of a mirror that doesn't reflect anything back. That discomfort isn't about you being rude, it's about their need for regulation. In everyday life, this shows up quietly. At work, when you listen more than you speak, people sometimes over-explain themselves around you. In group conversations, someone may suddenly justify their opinion after you simply look at them. In arguments, when you don't react emotionally, the other person may escalate. Not because you attacked them, but because your lack of visible reaction removes the emotional rhythm they expected. Most social interactions are synchronized nervous systems. One person laughs, the other laughs. One raises their voice, the other mirrors it. It's a dance of co-regulation. When you remain internally steady, you interrupt that dance. And interruption feels like imbalance to someone who relies on external cues to feel stable. What most people misunderstand is this: they think silent people are judging them, but often the discomfort comes from self-projection. When you are quiet, emotionally contained, and not rushing to fill space, you become a blank surface. And blank surfaces reflect what others carry inside. If someone feels secure, your silence feels peaceful. If someone feels insecure, your silence feels threatening. This is where emotional regulation becomes powerful without trying to be. When your nervous system is calm, your breathing steady, your responses measured, you're not participating in reactive escalation. You're not feeding emotional volatility. And for someone who unconsciously depends on validation or emotional feedback, that calm can feel like distance. Humans are wired for belonging. From early childhood, we learn to scan faces for approval. A caregiver's smile signals safety. A frown signals correction. Over time, many people grow into adults who still rely on those signals to feel anchored. So when you don't immediately smile, reassure, laugh, or react, it disrupts their familiar pattern. Your quiet isn't aggression, it's autonomy. And autonomy can feel intimidating to someone who measures connection through constant emotional exchange. There's another layer to this. Silence slows time. When you pause before responding, when you choose words carefully, you create a subtle power shift. In behavioral psychology, the person who controls pacing often controls perception. Rapid speech and over-explaining signal anxiety. Slow, deliberate responses signal internal stability. Even if you don't intend to project confidence, your nervous system state communicates it. And people respond more to nervous system states than words. That's why sometimes you'll notice others trying harder around you, talking more, joking more, filling the silence. It's not because you demanded attention, It's because silence removes the comfort of predictable feedback. Without constant affirmation, people become aware of themselves, and self-awareness can feel uncomfortable when someone isn't fully at ease with who they are. This is the subtle insight most never consider. Silence exposes internal noise. When you're quiet and grounded, others hear their own thoughts louder. They notice their own uncertainty, their own need to impress, their own discomfort with pauses. And instead of recognizing that inner experience as theirs, they often attribute it to you. You're intimidating. But what they might actually mean is, I don't know how to regulate myself around you. There's a difference. Low reactivity doesn't give others emotional footholds. If someone teases you and you don't react defensively, the teasing loses fuel. If someone tries to provoke you and you remain composed, the escalation stalls. For individuals who unconsciously test boundaries to feel control, your steadiness removes the game. And when the game disappears, so does their sense of leverage. This is why silence can feel powerful without being aggressive. It's not dominance, it's containment. Emotional containment signals maturity. It tells the environment, I don't need to compete for space. And in a culture where loudness is often mistaken for confidence, quiet regulation stands out. Not because it demands attention, but because it doesn't. At an identity level, people often respect what feels stable, even if they can't articulate why. The person who doesn't overshare, who doesn't rush to defend themselves, who can sit with a pause without scrambling to fill it. That presence suggests self-trust, and self-trust subtly commands social value. But here's the quiet truth. You don't need to use silence as a strategy. When it becomes a performance, the nervous system shifts again. True calm isn't withholding, it's simply not overextending. It's responding instead of reacting, listening instead of anticipating, letting space exist without fear. Some people will interpret that as distance, others will interpret it as strength. The difference lies in their own internal stability. So if you've ever wondered why your quiet presence changes a room, it's not because you're cold, it's not because you're judging, it's because you're not anxiously signaling for approval, and that absence of need exposes where others still feel one. Silence is not empty, it is revealing. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is remain steady enough that others begin to notice the noise within themselves. Not to control them, not to intimidate them, but to understand something deeper about human behavior. Calmness doesn't create discomfort, it uncovers it. And once you see that, you stop trying to shrink your presence just to make others feel regulated. You simply remain grounded and let the silence speak.